Everyone in the class had the smartest classmate. What happened to him? Story 1. Valedictorian was my good friend. She was a biomed major whose parents forced her into it. She was depressed and almost killed herself 2 years into med school. She quit med school, started working out, and became a firefighter. Happier than she's ever been. She's a shining example when I'm talking to people about doing what fulfills you. It's your life, not anybody else's. Story 2. In middle and high school, this one guy was not only the smartest person in our class, but was charismatic. We all thought he would be president one day. He graduated with a degree in finance and became an investment banker. Did that for about 10 years, then he got a DUI. He felt slighted by the cop that originally pulled him over and started to stalk the cop. His wife left him, and he went off the deep end. He eventually got arrested for planning an assault on a police station. Ended up pleading not guilty by reason of insanity, and now is indefinitely confined to a state mental hospital. Story 3. Had a ride at an Ivy League college but didn't come from money. Not sure precisely, but something like he couldn't stand the culture shock or something. I don't know the story, so he came home and managed a movie theater because it made him happier. Probably another smarter than others thing he did. Chose to do something that made him happy. Story 4. Smartest guy in my med school class now teaches pulmonary critical care and does pulmonary research at a large academic medical center. Smartest guy in my college fraternity became a teacher at MIT. Smartest person in my HS went to Harvard and now is part of a company that does mRNA research. Story 5. She was the only child of immigrant parents who put a lot of pressure on her. They moved to the US from their home country for a better life for her. She graduated HS as valedictorian, went to a top-name college on scholarship, and had a full-on mental breakdown sophomore year. She withdrew from college, returned home to live with her parents, and remained there last I heard working jobs far beneath her intelligence and ability. From what I understand, she never fully healed from the breakdown. Parents, please do not ever put that kind of pressure on your kids. No one deserves that. Story 6. I'm really old. My firstborn child, now 45, was that person. She graduated from Harvard Law 20 years ago, is married with 3 kids, and currently earns $1.5 million a year as a white-collar crime specialist. My second-born son was that person, now 41. He's a vice president at top software company and earns only slightly less than his older sister. He is married with 3 children. Story 7 was actually her. She got a perfect 4.0 in HS and an almost perfect SAT score. I knew her from track. We lived pretty close to one another and ran together. In class, she was one of those people who just seemed to understand anything the first time, no matter what it was. Last I heard, she was head of surgery at a hospital in Oregon. Doesn't surprise me in the least. Story 8. The valedictorian from my high school went to college and took a week to discover sorority life wasn't for her and switched from pre-med to horticulture and generally just chilled out and enjoyed the experience after a stressed-out high school that involved running home at lunch to touch up the ironing job on her jeans. Yes, she ironed her jeans, and it's something we still joke about. She went on to have a few different careers, but as one of those people who are wired differently from the rest of us, she now has her PhD and works at a major research hospital. Story 9. My sister was the rank the highest in the state and 3 in the country when she graduated. She did extremely well at university, did post-grad research, but had full-on mental health breakdown because of all the stress placed on her by her own pressure and her peers in science and medical research. She left, moved across the world for a man she barely knew, studied again, and is now in the medical field high up back home, married to the man living the life. Story 10. He had a lot of pressure from his parents to do well and get a good job. Although very intelligent, he had incredibly low self-esteem. Partway through college, he realized how much he missed out on in life, so he gave up on pretty much everything. He now lives at home with his parents and games all day and night. He's still young and can definitely turn his life around if he had some distance from his parents, but with the poor combination of intelligence and poor self-esteem, he has reasoned himself into believing that this is the best situation for himself. Deep down, he probably knows this. Kevin, if you're reading this, I wish you the best. You're still the smartest person I know. Don't let a few years of regrets haunt a lifetime. Story 11. She was one of those kids that did dual enrollment with the local college to earn credit for Gen Ed's whole completing high school. She earned her AA and her HS diploma at the same time. She earned her BA in a STEM field on a full ride, then married her HS sweetheart. She followed him to live across the country while he went to grad school. She has 3 kids and is a SAM. She has never worked in her field once. She seems very happy, but I really thought she was going to change the world. Story 12. No clue. He went to an Ivy League school but dropped out in the second year, got bored and was more interested in playing music than classwork, then drifted for a while. Last I heard, he was working for some small tech company, but that was years ago, and it's not like I keep up on what former classmates are doing. Story 13, he became a chef. He goes to people's houses, cooks their food, then spends his free time pursuing various intellectual endeavors. He likes to learn for the sake of understanding, not to achieve status or money. His favorite endeavor is teaching himself physics. He's already taught himself accounting, astronomy, car repair, psychology, and basic engineering. He has impeccable English, speaks 4 languages, and tackles a math problem for hours every Saturday evening. He wants no kids. He has a girlfriend, but she leaves him alone when he's in his zone. He doesn't earn much money, but he's one of the happiest people I've ever met. Story 14. During graduation, the part where you go up to receive your diploma and they list off your accomplishments. This one kid was up there for like 8 minutes while they read off one accolade after another. Everyone cheered like mad for him. Just looked him up and he's a project manager in the healthcare industry and has a long list of certifications and degrees. Good for him, dude. Definitely put the work in. Story 15. In my Smarty Pants friend group, the valedictorian became a dentist. I would trust her with my teeth any day. I'm intelligent yet dumb because I chose to go into education. I have 2 language degrees and also a finance license. I am working towards getting more of those, but summers off and school breaks are hella nice. I graduated with a 4.0 in my major from U of Mish. I wish I would have pushed myself more, but I was the first in my family to attend a traditional university. Story 16. I was in 5th grade. There was a kid named Ed. We all knew he was the smartest kid. The teacher would give him an A+ in everything, but his handwriting was awful. So we'd all want to see what grade he got on his handwriting because it would be the only thing not A+. I remember that kid and his brother would record Airwolf on their VCR, and they watched it enough to figure out the controls. And they drew a map on the back page of their notebook that had all the controls mapped out. I moved hundreds of miles away and never really got to go back. The summer I graduated high school, I drove up to my grandparents with my buddy, and we stopped in my old town to drive through it once. When we got to the high school that I would have gone to if I stayed in town, the sign said, "Congratulations to our valedictorian Edward." And it was him. No idea where he went, but I did like the closure after those years. Story 17. Class valedictorian. Star in just about every play from freshman to senior year. Played basketball and ran track. Was in band and maybe show choir, can't remember, National Honor Society, etc. Ended up going to a fairly prestigious liberal arts college, Oberlin for creative writing, I believe. If his Facebook is correct, he works for Habitat for Humanity leading projects to build homes. While this is a perfectly valid career, it always seemed very different from what I would have expected based upon his academics. Story 18. Had a lot of very smart people in my class. Went to an elite private school where I was probably in the top 20 to 30%, which meant that I got full rides to state schools instead of getting into an Ivy League school. Our bottom 10% went to places like Ole Miss or the like. The valedictorian in my grade was taking math classes at Vanderbilt during high school because he was so far ahead. He got the Moorhead Scholarship at UNC, which is a full ride plus funding for independent study and international programs. He then went on to start a university in Africa and then got his MBA at Stanford and developed an app to help gamify learning for the DoD and college athletic programs. Wild stuff. Eat it. Wife was also co-valedictorian of her school. She went on to graduate summa cum laude from her state school university and then top 10% in her top 10 law school before going into big law. Story 19. I was valedictorian in elementary school, kindergarten to grade 8. I won multiple academic awards as well. I had undiagnosed ADHD, anxiety, and depression. It got so bad that my grades fell off a cliff in grade 11, and I dropped out in grade 12 because I was so depressed. After 10 years of working a crappy retail job and working on my treatment-resistant depression, I managed to get myself into university where I now study applied physics. I still struggle with my mental health sometimes, but things are looking up. Story 20. I was that guy. I had to drop out of my PhD program due to mental health issues. I have ADHD but haven't been treated until recently. I never developed compensation techniques because I always got by on my intelligence alone. My parents meant well, but their way of trying to help me was to tell me that I have to try harder and that I'm wasting my potential. I internalized that until I got depression. I was offered the PhD position shortly before the pandemic hit, and the pandemic is a big part of what finally did me in. But I'm getting treatment. I have a nice and quiet job as a software developer at an amazing company, 32.5-hour week, and I have an amazing wife and an amazing son. I'll probably never fulfill my potential, but I'm learning to be okay with that. All in all, I'm happy now, and what more can you ask for? Story 21. So some backstory, My high school class was outrageously bright to the point that we set school records for the number of scholarships and value of them from our graduating class. Like the entire top 20 kids, maybe more, all ended up going to college for free. The top 40, 50 students all had 4.0 GPAs, and it came down to service projects, school extracurriculars, letters of recommendation, awards that determined who was first, second, etc. What I'm getting at is we had a metric shit ton of smart kids. Anyways, the top 6 smartest kids. 6 is a surgeon that lives across town. He does charity work on the side and takes care of his daughter on his off time. She was born with some rare defect and is lucky her dad has the money to afford her care. 5 became a teacher at the elementary school she came from. I think she's divorced, but she seems to stay busy and happy in her role, and she loves taking her kids to all sorts of science outings. 4 is a lawyer that worked for social justice causes. He was a local leader during the time of Occupy Wall Street and other environmental causes. He made the news talking about some of these too. He got married and has 2 kids, Washington State area, I believe. 3 is an environmental policy researcher who has moved all over the planet and contributed to a lot of programs both here and in Europe. I don't know much else about him other than he keeps writing and speaking about his work all over. 2 became a medical director at her hospital. I think she started near the bottom, but her family has a lot of doctors and connections in that industry, so she navigated up the admin all the way to the top. She made a lot of effort to get her local population vaccinated from COVID and then lost 3 family to it. Frontline medical workers, including her sister. She has 2 kids, lives in Maryland. The top student in our class went to our local college for music education and volunteer work for the poor. As she was and is a devout Christian, she focused on projects through her church. She met her husband through there and married 15 years ago. Then she became a stay-at-home wife, stepped away from everything and lives somewhere. As per the customs of Christian wives, she basically stays at home unless at church, has no outside contacts, and yeah, hopefully she is enjoying her life for what it's become. So, yeah, all over the place. Most are out helping make their communities and homes a better world. Story 22. IDK if I'm considered the smartest, but people put me at least among them. I was pre-dental and got interviews to all the schools I applied to, but then got sick, as in chronic and debilitating, and it completely derailed my track. Realized even if I got in, I wouldn't be healthy enough to go through the rigor of dental school. Pivoted to a high school science teacher for a few years while I figured out a new path. Earned several faculty awards, even my first year, for having such high rates of student success and cool intracity arson unit activities. Currently in my master's for bioinformatics and computational biology. Story 23. Unfortunately, the class valedictorian works on a menial academic position as a teacher where she barely ekes out a living. She's smart, sure, but far from successful, or at least most people would not envy her life. She dates some douchebag who cheats on her, but she puts up with him probably because of low self-esteem. Nah, the most successful person I know is a jock who got average marks in school but was very charismatic. He's now a CEO of a company, makes a ton of money, and has a hot wife and an amazing family. I tell you people, high school is but a small sliver of your life, and it is not always a good indicator for the rest of your life. And you certainly do not need to be smart to be rich and successful and happy. In fact, I'd argue his extrovert nature probably helps. Story 24 was either me or a different girl. I was just good at school, didn't study or anything, just good at science, history. Read ahead because I liked it. Was bad at math. Went to college, decided fuck this and got a job at a factory. Should have went to a different college or switched majors, etc., etc. She worked at a food service place called Sodexo. Thinks she went to a Big 3 school for the state I was in. Probably management there. No clue. Nothing major on their Facebook. Parents own a ranch and enough property they have roads named after them, but she doesn't live in the same area. It seems the people I graduated with the best outcomes were people with richer family in high places or military. Even the class clown and druggie seemed to be doing well. The one that seems to be doing the best was a quiet kid that I was friendly with but didn't have similar classes. Story 25. The actual smartest person? No idea. He was a genius but troubled. He could be dead, in jail, or maybe got the help he needed finally. The smart one that skipped a grade, doctor. The valedictorian became a lawyer. One other person was extremely smart at math, taking college math classes as a sophomore as he was already ahead of what the school offered. But no idea what became of him other than he went to Australia for graduate school of some kind. Story 26. He didn't get into the college he wanted to get into, didn't finish the college he actually attended, started bartending in town, tried real estate, is on the Board of Education, has recently been arrested and charged with sexual misconduct when he was caught groping someone at a party who was passed out drunk and woke up and caught him. First time he was charged, not the first time he's done it. Story 27. To me knowledge, he went to college and had a taste of freedom and binged hard on it. This kid was smart and had top grades, but every moment of his life was scheduled. The second he didn't have someone breathing down his neck telling him when to do things, he embraced doing whatever he wanted to do. He dropped out of college and is just following the current. Story 28 depends on the definition of smartest. The most intelligent person graduated early, did some community college, and now works for a multinational IT company specializing in enterprise servers and motherboards. He has an incredible mind, his recall is insane, and while having minimal formal education in regard to programming languages, has written multiple programs to improve communication and efficiency within the business he works for. The smartest grades-wise ended up starting an architectural and design firm in NYC and seems to be doing really well for herself. Story 29. Well, this is a sore topic as I was that one in high school. We recently reconnected and had our 50-year reunion. A whole lot of the people who attended were very successful, for example, head of corporations, etc. I was not. At the time we had our reunion, I had recently been informed by my former employer that they would no longer be sending out paychecks. I could, and do, continue working as needed for their remaining customers that need technical assistance. We reached an agreement for reimbursement rates to me for technical support to the remaining customers, to be reimbursed by bank transfer at the beginnings of the subsequent month by the corporation for which I used to work. The corporation would bill out my services to the customers at a higher rate. So, the inevitable question came up during the reunion of, what are you doing now? And that story came out. The response of so many of them was, what happened to you? You used to be so smart. Tact, not a strong point among them, I reckon.